Hey crew, today we have a new Solar Hunter build for Season of Defiance, and this thing is kind of busted. You straight up have 7 abilities on demand that you can use in a row, and since we have so many, we can easily chain and loop them with our subclass aspects, fragments, and then armor mods for infinite abilities. You have 5 different ways to make Orbs of Power with this build, which should be your goal when it comes to the new mod system. You also have 4 different ways that you can create healing for yourself and your team. And you can also create infinite ignitions with this build. So when we combine all of this into one build, we can do some crazy things even in endgame content, which you will see in the gameplay. But before we jump into it, I want to thank Surfshark VPN for sponsoring today's video. They have an amazing deal and the link is down below at the top of the description and in the pinned comment for you all. You get 83% off when you use my code THEBOOTY and also 3 extra months free. Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. Surfshark VPN allows you to change your location on apps like Netflix, which means you can see what other Netflix libraries across the world has to offer because there are a lot of different ones out there. Surfshark can also protect your computer from viruses that you may be compromised to when clicking on different links or downloading something that you shouldn't have. And then of course, being a gamer myself on Destiny 2, I need to make sure all my connections are secure with Discord and other apps to make sure nothing of my private information gets out. Surfshark offers so much more than your general antivirus program, so make sure to make a good choice and click that link in the description and stay protected online. Again, thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. I really appreciate it. And make sure to take advantage of this awesome deal because there's nothing more important than being safe online when you're doing different things like gaming. This build all revolves around the Hunter exotic chess piece Ophidia Spathe, and it has a very simple exotic perk called Scissor Fingers. Grants 2 knives per charge. But there are some details a lot of Destiny 2 players don't know about this exotic. First off, it is 2 knives per charge, which means when you dodge near an enemy, you get a full 2 knives back, not just 1. This is different than other exotics that give a second ability charge because you have to still regen that second charge. So already it's better in that regard because just imagine something like Armamentarian over on the Titan, and if it gave you a second grenade when you refilled the first. That would be amazing. So since we know we get a second one back instantly, when you dodge near an enemy with Gambler's Dodge, you instantly get 2 knives back. So you could throw both of those knives, dodge, and throw 2 again. Now when you throw 2 knife tricks, you will create an ignition because knife tricks has a lot of scorch damage that it is applying. And ignitions can also refill our melee ability. So if you come up against a beefier enemy and you throw 2 knives, it might not kill the target, but you will cause an ignition on that target. If that ignition kills a single target with the explosion, you will get both knife charges back thanks to our knock 'em down aspect. That states while radiant, final blows with your throwing knife will fully refund your melee ability. Since the ignition came from your melee ability, this counts and will refund both your melees. So even if your ignition doesn't kill a high health target, that ignition might still kill a red bar enemy around that high health target, and if that happens, that still counts as both knives back. Also, as you can see on Carl here, you can chain knives infinitely thanks to our other fragments and mods. So our combo of throw 2 knives, dodge, throw 2 more knives can be very, very deadly as long as we can survive the content that we're up close in, and that is also without adding in our grenades this season. This season we have firebolt grenades that do a ton of scorch damage to reach those ignitions faster, and we get 2 charges of them. On top of that, when we damage something with a firebolt, it will create a fire sprite near that target, and collecting a fire sprite gives you a armor charge. So needless to say, firebolts can do a ton for you in any solar build. So now we just have so many abilities at our disposal to be scorching enemies and igniting them, all while being refunded both knives and having sustained healing and amazing grenade uptime thanks to our other fragments and mods. So now let's go over the subclass first, and I want to go over some fragments and explain to you why we're using those and why we're not taking some other ones that some people may have mentioned in my last Solar Warlock build video, and I will explain where my mindset is when it comes to choosing these fragments. All my choices basically revolve around gearing it up for end game content. Now for the Gunslinger Hunter subclass, I like the Gambler's Dodge. When you dodge into that enemy, we get both those knives back, so it's really important to the overall build. Blade Barrage is still better than any of your golden guns. We want Knife Trick because Knife Trick causes the most scorch stacks on an enemy the quickest, so that's why we always take Knife Trick with this. Then of course Firebolt because that's going to play into our artifact and all the different mods we can use for that. For the 2 aspects, we're taking Knock 'em Down. This is going to make your Blade Barrage launch more projectiles, so it just makes your Blade Barrage a bit better. And then at the bottom part here, while Radiant, final blows with your equipped throwing knife fully refund your melee energy. We're always going to be Radiant with this, so if you do kill a, just like a red bar enemy running around in a patrol, you're going to get your melee back. Then we have On Your Mark, so this is basically getting you increased weapon handling and reload speed for a short duration. It's about 10-second duration, but it gives us 3 fragments, so we're taking this, and we get this max stack right away when we dodge, and we're dodging all the time, so On Your Mark is always up. For the fragments, we're going to take Ember of Torches. We become Radiant when we do our powered melee attack and make allies Radiant, so a 25% weapon damage boost to everybody, and that plays into knock them down for that throwing knife to come back instantly. We're taking Ember of Singeing. Your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets. We always want that class ability up so we can dodge near enemies and get the double knife trick back. This allows us to make that loop when we're just against one high health target to always have our dodge up. We're going to take Ember of Ashes to apply more scorch stacks with our throwing knives and our 2 fire bolts. That's just going to make things ignite quicker. We are going to take Ember of Mercy. Picking up a fire sprite grants restoration, and when you revive an ally you get restoration. And we're going to take our last one, Ember of Searing. Defeating scorched targets grants melee energy and creates fire sprites. This one is mainly for the fire sprites, and then Ember of Mercy is taking advantage of that. Now, the main reason we're taking this is because when you pick up a fire sprite, it resets your restoration time. I had some people ask this on my last Solar Warlock build video. The reason I'm not taking Ember of Empyrean right now is it says Solar Weapon or Ability Final Blows extend the duration of restoration and Radiant. This would be great, right? Because you would have 12 seconds of restoration up all the time, but unfortunately, even if you accidentally run over one of those fire sprites, it resets this timer down to 3 seconds. So basically, by creating multiple fire sprites in different ways and picking those up, you're just resetting this, so it's kind of counteracting it. Also, fire sprites has a 4-second cooldown on when one can be created. And with Ember of Singeing here, your melee scorches targets and kills them, so we instantly create a fire sprite with this knife trick no matter what on an enemy when we kill them. So every 4 seconds we're creating that fire sprite, and the restoration from fire sprite lasts for 3 seconds. So basically you can chain these two back to back and always have restoration up. It's just a matter of seeing that sprite on the ground and going and grabbing it. And then we're gonna add extra healing with the mods, but that's kind of my mindset. And as far as Ember of Empyrean goes, the harder content you push, the more this falls off. So let's say like when you're dealing with that champion or two that's pushing you, this isn't as good, whereas I'd rather have multiple fire sprites popping up to take advantage of that healing when I'm not able to kill something that quickly, like champions, right? Or high health targets. So whenever I do builds like this, it's always built and geared towards more endgame content, whereas if I was doing easier content, of course you could throw Ember of Empyrean on. You could also do Ember of Blistering. Defeating targets with solar ignitions grants grenade energy just to feed this loop, but as you can see in the gameplay, we don't need that extra grenade energy, and that was the same thing on my Warlock, which is why I don't take Ember of Blistering. So that's just some examples of why I don't take certain fragments and why I choose other fragments over others, but of course you guys are free to switch these out. If anything fits better with your playstyle, then go ahead and do it. You want to hit 100 resilience for your damage reduction. You want to push your discipline and your mobility up as a hunter if you possibly can. I actually got the triple 100 on this build, so that's pretty freaking sweet. We already went over our exotics, so let's go over our mods. So for our helmet, we have Solar Siphon and we have Void Siphon. So when you have a solar weapon on and a void weapon, they're going to create Orbs of Power. For the artifact, you want to take the 2 Firebolt mods over here, Rain of Firebolts and Flare Up. You also want to take Solar Surge. I like Shattering Orbs, so when I match an orb or a shield, I get a bunch of orbs, and then Volatile Flow for volatile rounds. Now on the helmet, we went over the Solar Siphon, Hands-On, and the Void Siphon. So let's go over here and do the arms next. We have Heavy Handed. Your power melee final blows create Orbs of Power. Impact Induction, causing damage with a melee attack, reduces your grenade cooldown. And Focusing Strike grants class ability energy when you cause damage with a melee attack. So both of these feeding our other abilities from our melee, and we always have that melee. A bunch of damage resistance on the chest piece, and then on the boots we have Better Already. Your health begins to regenerate immediately after picking up an Orb of Power. Innervation, reduce grenade cooldown each time you pick up an Orb of Power. And Recuperation, replenishes health each time you pick up an Orb of Power. If you don't need as much class ability energy, you could swap this out for Grenade Kickstart, and that also works really well. But we're creating orbs from our melee ability, we're creating orbs from our Void Siphons, and we're also going to create orbs from Reaper down here on our class ability. After using your class ability, your next weapon final blow spawns Orb of Power. That means that's 4 different ways of creating orbs We also have Bomber on the class item, and then we have a utility kickstart to get that dodge back quicker on the class item as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. This is a very fun build this season. Take advantage of it. I've tried Ahamkara's Spine, my Trip Mine Grenade build this season, and for me personally, this season with the artifact mod and the solar grenades, I like this one better this season. So take that any way you want. You can use this build or not, or go the Ahamkara route that you've already seen me do a video on in the past. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.